I've been battling this cold or flu. I don't know what it is for like the last week. It seems like I start off the day feeling all right. Then towards the course of the day, I start to feel, a little run down, stuffy nose, sore muscles, scratchy throat. That's what I'm dealing with the most right now. I'm good though, for the most part. But if I sound weird, that's why. I did not expect what is this, 17, 18-year-old game to be this deep and complex. Uh, the Witcher Enhanced Edition Director's Cut. That's the full name. I know it's a mouthful, but that's what it says on my GOG account. I thought it was going to be a little more simplistic given its age. And I did the first game that I've played in the Witcher series was 3 because I've never heard of The Witcher because I was never a PC guy until, recent years. So I was always a console kid, and there's lots of games that I'm still catching up on that are considered the golden age or the standard of PC gaming. And some of them have really paid off. Stalker probably being my favorite series that I've never played because of being a console kid. But yeah, I'm blown away. I really am. Like, it almost feels like it's too much sometimes, right? And uh, to sum up The Witcher Enhanced Edition, it is a beautiful game that it's well constructed. It's like a table made out of like oak, right? Like you can pass that table down generations, right? Because it's sturdy and it withstands the test of time. It's classic, it's timeless. I dare say that about The Witcher. I know that sounds like I'm giving it super high praise, which that's exactly what I am giving it. So far it's awesome, right? It's marred by the biggest problem the game has, right? The elephant in the room, the combat, right? Which we'll talk about probably more than I would like, but we will. And everything else just hits the right spots, right? Like I'm playing it on hard. I can only imagine this game would be a completely different experience if it was played on lower difficulty levels. If I remember correctly, there's three difficulty levels, which are basically just the standard levels: easy, medium, and hard. Let me take a drink. I'm playing on hard because I feel like that is the way the game is intended to be played. Now, you hear that a lot, right? In reality, the game is meant to be played however you want to play. I know that sounds like a cop out answer, and I hate when people tell me that. Like, when you watch like a YouTube video on like which game is better, is it this one or this one? And they go, well, the real answer lies in your heart. The real the real adventure is the friends you made along the way. Some dumb shit like that. I was like, give me a clear, concise winner here. Um, what was I going with this? Or where was I going with this? I don't know. But everything else fits the bill: the music, the character development, the atmosphere, the grittiness, dark, gray, depressing world of The Witcher. I think there's like 7, 8 chapters or something like that in this game. I'm not quite sure on the exact number, but it's so long. This game is so in depth and complex, and even though the combat is easily the worst part of this game, which sucks, right? Because like the combat is supposed to be the driving force of the game. I go back and forth with my one of my friends about this because he's a very neurotic guy, and he likes to collect things, and he has this OCD completionist thing going on. And sometimes he can't see that, like, what he enjoys other people don't. Like I don't think he's I don't know if he's conscious on the fact that because he enjoys it, he kind of assumes everyone else does. And I'm like, no, lots of people view what you do as a chore. Like I follow a guy named the Completionist, right, on YouTube. I've been following him for years, man. And as of 2025, I hear he's involved in some weird scandal or scam, or I don't honestly, I don't give a shit. I've read about it. I know a little something about it. I don't know. I don't have no opinion on it. I'm not well versed in the completionist's personal life or his doings. As a matter of fact, I stopped watching all of my YouTubers for a long time. I would say for maybe like a year and a half. I didn't really watch YouTube like that. Whenever I did, I wouldn't be in my account. I wouldn't log into my account. I'll just, go online and randomly look up a video, some which I'm doing now. Actually, I'm not logging into my account at all. So maybe about 2 years since so I have no idea what all of my YouTubers have been up to, like what kind of videos. Every now and then I'll see one post something up on Instagram or something, and I may watch it or something. But for the most part, I don't know who's doing what. But I do know that the completionist, or Gerard, whatever his name is, I don't know why I said that. I know his name. I just said it. Um, he has this thing, where he has to complete every single game, and not just complete it, but like also get all of the achievements, unlock all of the you know, whatever that game requires, whether it's keys, whether it's chests, whether it's locations, whether it's beating games on all of the difficulties. And that sounds miserable. That's a miserable existence. I'm not saying he's living a miserable existence. Well, maybe now because of all the shit that he's going through. But I mean, like, you take you can easily turn your favorite game into a chore by doing that, right? Like if you're collecting absolutely every little thing, it's going to become a chore. That's why the majority of his reviews at the end, it seems like he's just so burnt out by it. Like he's like, he's like, yeah, this one was a chore. All of them are a chore, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I don't know. If I, I'm sure he's been told before, like, hey man, you don't have to get everything as long as you complete the game. You're still the completionist if you complete the game, right? But I guess in his mind, I don't know, can't speak for him. I guess in his mind, he's thinking that bar is pretty low. Anyone can do that. So he's like, but not everyone can sit there and literally complete a game from 1 to 100. So I get it. You gotta find your little niche and stick with it. I understand, but me and my friend, we go back and forth because he's one of those people, right? And not really. He's a very complex guy. Love the guy, but he gets on my nerves because he doesn't even follow his own rules. Like he'll say things like, "Oh yeah, I'm a completionist. I like this and that," and then he'll play a game for a little bit and then just stop playing the game and then go play something else. And I'm like, "What happened to that other game? Weren't you? I liked it, but I was." He's all over the place, man. But anyways, me and him go back and forth on how and his like he likes he's playing No Man's Sky right now, and to me that game was kind of boring. Sorry, I tried it twice, one on console, one on PC. I gave it an honest shot. I played each time for several hours, and it is interesting. There are interesting aspects to the game: the flying, the visiting different planets, the fact that you can find a planet that's uniquely yours, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a ridiculously giant galaxy of worlds where it's almost, I forgot what the number was, but it was so ridiculous, that like one person in their lifetime won't be able to explore all of these planets in real lifetime. And he loves that shit, like, but I don't. I found it boring because it's pretty much all you're doing is surveying. And it all boils down to this. I told him this. I said, because he's not a big combat guy, because he's an older guy, and he says he doesn't have the dexterity to do the combat anymore, to do fast, twitchy movements, which I can buy to an extent because I've seen him play games that require combat, and he does well enough. So I don't even know if he's exaggerating, which he's known to do. Like I said, he's a handful. That's my boy, but he is a handful. And the thing is, I told him this. I said one of his favorite games ever was Morrowind. And see, Morrowind was before my time. Well, not before my time. I was most definitely alive. I think I was in my like 20s when Morrowind came out. So I would say that I was still a console kid, and I did play the Xbox 360 version, but I was not ready for that shit. I was like, by that time, it looked kind of dated, and I was just like, I'm not ready to play this, and I ended up playing something else, like Left 4 Dead. I used to stay up all night playing that shit with my friend. as well as Street Fighter when I was doing like the PvP thing or whatever. It was good stuff. So where am I going? Totally forgot. Drinky time. The, every single video game that's ever came out, right, from the beginning to now, follows one simple philosophy, and that's fun. Now, fun is open to interpretation, right? His version of fun, my friend, is running around the worlds in like No Man's Sky and collecting stuff. I will find that tedious, feels like a chore to me after a while. My version of fun, or my interpretation of fun, would be action. Whatever that action is, where it's melee, where there's shooting, I need to have some sort of skill based action where I can go, fight someone and be like, yeah, I feel good after that tough win. That's what I need. But he does too. He doesn't like to admit it, but he does. And I kind of proved it because I told him, I said, look, his favorite game, one of his favorite games of all time is Morrowind, right? To go back to that. I told him, I said, Morrowind would not be your favorite game if all you did was explore and collect things, like zero combat, just explore and collect things. And Morrowind also wouldn't have been your favorite game, or would not be your favorite game, if all you did was just combat and no exploring and collecting. If it was just a linear combat action game. But when you put both of those together and you expertly craft it, you get an awesome game, right? So my point was, the best games to play, the ones that you remember the most, are the games that have like a mixed bag, an assortment of things that you can do, and they're all executed pretty well. I'm not a video game dev, but I can only imagine that it's the standard now, and I don't think it's as hard. Once again, this is an opinion. I don't think it's as hard to add combat, exploration, as well as collecting things into a modern video game. As a matter of fact, that's the norm from what I've seen, right? Like Horizon Zero Dawn, the Uncharted series, even this Indiana Jones game that just came out recently, the new Dragon Age game that came out recently, like you name it, right? There's so many games that like that's the norm. You're a guy stuck, a guy or a girl in this world where you have to collect things and also fight and so forth. Cyberpunk is another one. It's one of my favorites because of that. They did great world building as well as combat as well as exploration. It had everything and it was done well. And I told him that once a game leans heavily on one thing, it it becomes boring quickly for me because that it's like a one trick pony almost, right? It's like, yes, sure, some games may have light combat and heavy exploration, and vice versa, heavy combat and light exploration. I don't know. Everyone's different. Once again, fun is open for interpretation. For some people, let's use myself as an example again, right? I've had fun with several games that had zero combat, zero action whatsoever. Well, they did have action, but it was in the form of like, point and click games. Like, I'll give you some that I've played that I've enjoyed a lot. I've covered some of these in this channel. One of them is Pentiment. I believe that's the Obsidian game that came out not so long ago, and I think that's how you pronounce it. I always get it messed up. That game was awesome. Papers, Please was awesome. Disco Elysium was awesome. Return of the Obra Dinn being my most favorite in recent memory, where there's no combat whatsoever, but it was just an excellently written detective story. And then older point and click games that I played, like Agatha Christie games, like and then there was None, Murder on the Orient Express. Even games like Dropsy, which is this like weird acid trippy clown game where he runs around hugging people, but he looks fucking scary as hell. Yeah, it's fun is open for interpretation, and as long as a video game has fun, as long as you follow that simple philosophy, you should be fine. But don't be preachy about it, man. Play what you want to play. The combat in The Witcher, we're finally back full circle. It's the worst part of the game. As a matter of fact, the combat was so bad that I remember my friend was watching me play it, and she was laughing when I showed her because it's so outdated and the animations are so janky, and it's point and click combat mixed with real time actions, which sounds like a nightmare, right? Like you point and click at an enemy. Geralt would be the main character you control. He automatically attacks, and then you have to wait for this orange trail that your weapon. It's like this orange trail as he's swinging his sword. You see this orange trail, and then you press the left click button. So it's like real time. So he's attacking automatically, but you have to chain these combos whenever you see this orange trail. It's simplistic, but it's also janky and very unresponsive sometimes. Like even now with the enhanced edition that I'm playing that has been revised from the original, I can only imagine what the original was like. I went online and I checked, and it turns out that combat is more bearable when you are doing the isometric view. I'm doing the over the shoulder view. I feel like that's a little more immersive and more on par with what The Witcher becomes in the future games. So I'm trying to get used to it that way, but it seems like this game was meant to be played in an Jesus isometric view, and it, it's it was bad. I uninstalled it. I played it for a bit, uninstalled it, and was like, I'm not going through that. And then I kept thinking about how much I loved the story, and the game just started. I love the voice acting. I love the music. I love the well, I wouldn't say love, but I really liked, and it stuck in my mind even after I uninstalled it. And I was just like, you know what, man? I keep reading online that the story is the shit. They were like, the story is a really good one, but it's hard for people to get past the combat, which I totally understand. I seen this one guy and on the Steam reviews, and he was going insane. Like, I fucking hate it when people, well, maybe not fucking, but something close to that. He was very upset, or at least that's the way he came off. I hate it when people don't give The Witcher a pass. The first one, I mean, when they give it a pass just because of the combat, it has one of the most deepest stories ever, and it's a complex game. And he's right, but at the same time, you can't be mad because the combat's not good. It's not good. I have learned how to deal with it. The combat has become tolerable and even in some cases enjoyable. And I say that word like cautiously, right? Because it'll get enjoyable for a while when you're in a flow kind of state. That word flow state. I associate that with like corporations and it makes me sick. Ugh. We're reaching that flow state, Bob. Like that's what I think of. So, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is like you reach this state where you're just clicking a button. You're clicking that uh, the combos. You're chaining them up. You've prepared beforehand to fight a particular beast by coating your blades with a oil that they're susceptible to. And kind of like I always think of like Batman, how Batman's like a master planner. It's like that's how a Witcher has to be. It's like, hey man, you're about to fight like 20 ghouls. So you go, oh shit, I better take a swallow, which is the name of the potion. No, not that swallow, the bird. And it basically speeds up your health meter and it's good when you're in combat. And also you might want to coat your blade with necrophage oil. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And that there's ghouls are susceptible to that. I like the preparation aspect of it. It makes you feel like a badass, right? Because you're just like, kind of like akin to, those commando movies where they show the Arnold or Sylvester or whatever, Stallone preparing by loading up a bunch of ammunition into automatic weapons and shoving guns in the back of their pants. And I feel like that when I'm preparing as the Witcher. I'm like, I feel like a badass. And then when you actually put it to play and you're cutting down these enemies, it feels pretty good, not gonna lie. Even if the combat is very floaty and unresponsive in the sense that you'll click an enemy and Garrett will kind of just walk up to him sometimes and kind of just look at him. And I'm like, fight, motherfucker. They're beating you up. That can get annoying. I get it. If someone were to play The Witcher today, right? Like someone like me who's completely new to the series, I'm super casual about it. I don't know the intricacies. I know a little something, something. But like, I wouldn't say that I'm like a hardcore Witcher fan. I would say that I am a fan. I like the series, well, at least one and three. I have not played two yet, and I'm thinking about that next. I'm hearing it's more action oriented, which is kind of up my alley, but at the same time, I'm a little sad because if it's missing the complexity and deepness that 3 and 1 have, I'm gonna be a little disappointed because I like that. I like reading lore. I like uh, buying really fucking expensive books to learn about monsters, origin stories, and weaknesses and locations. But it's hard. If someone were to come up to me and go, "Hey, I can't play The Witcher 1 because that combat is unbearable," it would be unfair for me to be like, "Oh, why? Come on, you can." I'll be like, "I get it." I won't even try to fight with you. I'll be like, "I understand. It's not for everyone, and only a few can get past it because it's not good combat." And unfortunately, if it was just part of the game, which it is, don't get me wrong, then if you can somehow skip it, fine. I'm assuming that if you're playing the game on a lower difficulty, like easy, you can do that. You can kind of breeze through the game. As a matter of fact, I've even heard people in Steam comments say that the game becomes ridiculously easy on easy, where you can just, you don't have to really prepare potions or anything. You can just kind of hack and slash your way through it. Honestly, you know me. I like to play my games on hard because I like the difficulty. I feel like, it just feels better when you know pass, not pass is not the word, when you overcome a big challenge. But maybe play this on easy if you're one of those people that can't get past the combat, just to experience the story. Play it on easy and breeze through it. Like breeze through the combat, and I can't. Just saying that makes me feel like feels like I'm lying to you guys or something. Like, or you can be a fucking masochist like me. That's the word, masochist. Someone who likes pain. You can be like me and then just put it on hard with no fucking experience of this game whatsoever, and then just keep surviving through the skin of your teeth. There's only been a few battles where I actually prepared for, and I was gonna say pre-prepared, then I realized pre is already in the word prepared. So prepared, not pre-prepared. So there's only been a few battles where I actually prepared beforehand and did well, and I was like, okay, that was exactly how I expected it to be, and it feels good. I think one of them being I went to like some sort of a crypt or cave and fought some algals and some graviers. I don't know how you say them, but that was cool because I was like mowing them down. They whooped my ass the first time, or I fought some similar enemies in a different location, I believe, and they whooped my ass. And I was like, you know what? I wasn't even prepared. I just went in there with just a silver sword or whatever, and I was just going to town on them without no real um, strategy. So everything else checks out. It's just the combat, and you know I wish that there was a way you can just skip the combat and then just experience the story, but I don't think that's the case. And it reminds me of MMOs, right? ESO specifically, Elder Scrolls Online. This is another thing me and my friend go back and forth on. He gets upset because I tell him, I'm like, I don't like the combat in ESO. It feels floaty. It feels like not unresponsive, but it doesn't feel punchy. It doesn't feel like you don't feel the real contact when you're hitting them. Like for example, when you're playing like New World, I like the combat in New World. Like you hit them and it feels good. It feels like punchy. It feels like you're actually hitting something of weight or whatever. And unfortunately, you don't get that in this Witcher. Everything is floaty as fuck. It reminds me a lot of ESO, and he would get mad because that's the way he is, and he would say it's not all about combat. ESO is not all about combat, and I'm like, yes, I understand that, but like, you cannot progress without combat. There's no way that you can play ESO and just finish the game with zero combat or no combat. Like that is literally, I think that's the main thing that you do in MMOs. You need combat as it's a vehicle to get you from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. So if combat's going to be the number one thing you're going to be doing the most in video games, like try your hardest to get it right and then keep refining it as the updates go. It seems like it's ESO's deceiving because it's like I'm not a fan of the combat, but it is deep in a weird way. It's not punchy. They don't care about the animations. They're all canned animations. It seems like it doesn't feel good to fight. But it is deep in the sense that you can combine a bunch of different builds with different weapons that have different attributes, and you can just create min max your to your heart's extent. Reminds me a lot of like Path of Exile. These games are super popular, especially part two now. Here is like breaking records. Congrats to them, because part one was awesome. I played part one from beginning to the end without spending a dollar, and it was a free game. I'm not proud of that. I'm more than happy to give money to Path of Exile because it is a damn good game, but I just didn't find anything I wanted to spend money on. Kudos to them, right? Because they don't have a predatory microtransaction store, which is great. But at the same time, it's kind of like a backfire because what, to pay for more room space, for more storage space. Sorry, cosmetics. I'm not into really any of that. So that's the only reason I didn't pay. It's not because I'm cheap. I promise. I promise. So unfortunately, yeah. So combat aside, everything else checks out. The music checks out, the location checks out, the lore, the deepness, the racism between humans and non-humans, dwarves, elves, and humans, the depressing locations, the mature subjects, the fact that you can have sex with women and you can talk to women and their tits are out, and like they treat you like an adult, which I heard in the original game, the first Witcher, they censored a lot of that for the American release, which of course they would, right? They've been doing that for years since Nintendo, right? They would take the blood out of a Japanese game, and when they shipped it over here to the US, we'll get the green blood or purple blood or some dumb shit like that. I've always hated that. Like, well, with Nintendo, it makes sense because it's for kids. But like a computer game from 2007 that's mature and deals with mature subjects, you shouldn't censor that. I'm an adult, and I'm glad I'm playing the director's edition, which doesn't censor anything. And I'm like, great. I can handle some elf titties. I'll be fine. So yeah, everything else, no bullshit. I know I'm generalizing here, and I keep saying this over and over again, but like, of course, if you want to look for more in-depth, uh, an in-depth review of The Witcher, there's 1,000 people, 1,000 plus people online who do it better than me. But no bullshit. Everything else is great. The music, the locations, everything. It's just the combat. The combat is the biggest eyesore of this game, and I will tell you this, right? If you intend on playing it, I would say come in with the expectation that the combat's not going to be that great. But if you get good at the combat, it does get better, not by a lot. I'm not going to give you hope, but it does get better enough for you to tolerate it. Now, as to how long, I don't know because I'm in the third chapter now, and it is becoming a little more increasingly hard to um, continue playing, and that's only because it's hard to get money in this game without gambling, and I don't like those. I don't like playing. I'm not a big gambler in real life at all. So imagine in a video game, right, where I should be spending my time honing my character and exploring, and instead I'm in a brothel arguing. I mean, playing poker with a dwarf. I'm like, no, dude, I don't want to do that. I want to go and like if I want, I would just play a gambling game on my phone if I wanted to do that. But whatever, to each their own. I'm assuming that that's the best way to make money in this game. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. I don't know, but it seems to me like if you want to make a good amount of cash in this game, or what are they called? Damn, I forgot. But they're gold coins and orans. That's what they're called. And you do these missions for these people. You kill these creatures or whatever the case may be, and they give you, here's 150 oran. You know, and I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do with this? It's like one potion. So there are missions where they do give you like 1,000 orans. Like I had to do this tower mission where I had to unlock this tower on chapter two, and I got $1,000 for that, and I was like, good, like that's more understandable when armor is 5 Gs, and each mission is like 200 orans, 300 orans, and I'm trying to buy this new armor, and it's 5,000 orans, and I'm like, Jesus, I'm never gonna get there. I'm slowly starting to be a cheap ass and saving everything that I can. I got a little over 2,000 right now saved up, and I'm like, okay, good. I'm gonna just, you know, keep grinding it until I get this armor or whatever. Overall, man, it's 100% worth a playthrough. The enhanced edition, I don't know about the OG edition. I can only imagine that it must be a pain in the ass, to be honest. So I would say stick to the enhanced version. I got it for free on GOG as well as part two. They were giving them away for free one day. I might have got them when I purchased The Witcher 3, maybe. I don't remember, but I remember once I got The Witcher 3, I think on GOG, they ended up giving part 1 and part 2 to me for free, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. Maybe one day I'll go back and play them." And I did. I'm glad I did because even though this game is, once again, the combat is the worst part, everything else checks out, and I'm gonna dive into this game as soon as I'm done this recording. I'm enjoying it, and it's definitely worth a playthrough, but come with the expectation that there are going to be some limitations, and you got to be patient, right? If you're going to play on hard like me, like you have to use alchemy, you have to use potions. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're going to get your ass handed to you, so you got to do a lot of preparation. But that is what a Witcher's supposed to do, right? So it's like, if you're going to play a game where you're a Witcher, you better prepare. That goes hand in hand. I'm getting out of here. It's already been a little over a half hour. Hopefully, talk to you guys soon.